Discover 7 miraculous angels of the Bible, incredible revelations of God's transforming power. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the people of Israel wandered in a land belief bound, yet burdened by discord and despair. Among them was Hagar, an Egyptian maidservant of Sarai, who wandered the wilderness of Shur, her heart a barren desert, silent save for the echoes of her anguish. Abused and cast aside, she fled from Sarai's growing envy, feeling naught but the sting of her circumstances pressing heavily upon her soul. Hagar was alone, a discarded tool in the household of Abraham, invisible and forgotten, under the meager shade of a scraggly tree, the air thick with heat and desolation. Hagar's sorrow enveloped her like a shroud. As she sat, hoping for a glimpse of mercy, darkness threatened to overwhelm her spirit. Suddenly, the wilderness was illuminated by an otherworldly light, a luminescence that broke through her despair. Fear and awe gripped her heart as she beheld a figure, an angel of the Lord, radiant and serene, standing before her. "Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?" The angel's voice was both a gentle caress and an authoritative call. With trembling lips, Hagar poured out her heart. "I am fleeing from the presence of my mistress, Sarai." The weight of her circumstance spilled forth, full of shame, abandonment, and hopelessness as she felt God's silence echoing in her trials. The angel listened intently, and as Hagar's cries subsided into a heavy silence, the atmosphere shimmered with divine stillness, pregnant with purpose. "Return to your mistress, and submit to her," the divine messenger commanded, but not without a promise. "I will surely multiply your offspring, so that they cannot be numbered for multitude." These words, spoken with divine authority, pierced through Hagar's veil of despair like a sunbeam breaking through storm clouds. Hope ignited within her heart. She realized that her pain and her existence were known to the Almighty. Hagar marveled at this revelation, her identity shifting from that of a mere servant to a beloved daughter of God, chosen for a sacred purpose. "You are the God of seeing," she gasped, recognizing her worth in the eyes of the Creator. As the angel departed, the landscape of her spirit transformed. Wounds of her past began to heal in the light of divine grace. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. With strengthened resolve, Hagar set forth on a path fraught with uncertainty and trepidation. Could she indeed return, bringing with her a message of hope and possibility? The surreal promise of bearing a son weighed heavily in her heart. Would he truly be the father of a great nation? With each step, she felt the warmth of God's presence surrounding her, drawing her back towards the familial hearth that once felt so treacherous. What stories lay ahead as Hagar journeyed back to Sarai? How would her faith unravel threads of uncertainty into a tapestry of divine purpose? The wilderness whispered secrets ancient and sacred, beckoning her closer to the reality of God's promises, and her heart thrummed with anticipation of the path unfolding before her. And as Hagar journeyed, the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows upon the desert earth. With each step, memories of her fleeting days in Sarai's household echoed in her mind, the laughter, the joys, but also the scorn, the jealousy, the heart-wrenching disdain. Yet now, she carried a new identity, infused with hope and purpose. God had seen her, she could face the future. When Hagar arrived at the trellis of her former life, the air crackled with tension. Sarai watched her approach, her expression unreadable, a storm brewing within her heart. Hagar could sense the weight of the air around them, charged with unspoken words and emotions yet to be revealed. "What brings you back, Hagar?" Sarai queried, her voice a mixture of incredulity and cold disdain. "Have you returned to mock me further?" With courage born of divine promise, Hagar straightened her spine. "Mistress Sarai, I have returned at the command of the Lord. I am to submit once more into your household, for I bear a child, a son, whom I shall name Ishmael." The name echoed with a resonance that spoke of God's grace and attention, for the Lord had heard her affliction. Sarai's eyes narrowed, her mind racing to comprehend this transformation. this unexpected return? Ishmael? A child of my husband? The words cut through the air, tinged with jealousy and unresolved strife. What claim do you seek in this household, Hagar, when you are but an Egyptian maid? Hagar felt the weight of her words settle like stone between them. I seek not a claim, but the fulfillment of God's promise, a promise made to the broken and forsaken. Sarai fell silent, her heart prickling with the gravity of Hagar's declaration. How could she reconcile the truth that the Lord had visited Hagar, even in the depths of despair? The seed of conflict and understanding began to germinate within her. As the days turned to weeks, Hagar's presence swelled with life, and whispers of God's assurance echoed throughout the tent. Yet Sarai's heart was a battlefield, torn between bitterness and the realization of divine orchestration. The atmosphere thickened with an uneasy truce, each woman navigating her own emotional landscape, as Hagar's child came ever closer. In fervent silence, the Lord's Spirit moved, guiding Hagar to find strength in her identity, and Sarai to wrestle with the jealousy that had shrouded her heart. Both women stood on the precipice of transformation, both were caught in the web of God's sovereign plan. Then, one night, as Hagar reclined against the cool earth beneath the starlit sky, she heard the voice of God once more, soft yet omnipotent. Ishmael's future is a testament of my promise. For through him shall nations arise and his legacy shall ripple through time. Awakened by the encounter, Hagar pondered the full measure of her son's future. Would he indeed become a great nation as the Lord had spoken? What trials await her and her progeny? In that moment of stillness, despite the uncertainties looming on the horizon, Hagar felt a divine peace envelop her, a promise in her heart. But what she did not yet know was the magnitude of the calling that lay before both her and Sarai, their lives entwined in a narrative greater than themselves, an unfolding plan of redemption that would stretch across generations, binding their fates to the unfolding history of faith, covenant, and an everlasting promise yet to be revealed. And in the days that followed, a heavy silence hung over the tent, as Hagar's spirit swelled with expectancy, her belly bore witness to the promise of God. The dawn light filtered through the canvas, flickering like hope, yet Sarai still wandered in a labyrinth of her own making, her heart troubled by the reality unfolding before her eyes. One morning, as they gathered around the morning fire, Hagar noticed Sarai staring at her with a gaze that pierced deeper than the heat of the flames. What weighs upon your heart, Sarai? She ventured, her voice steady but gentle, as the sun rose to promise another day. How can I endure this? Sarai sighed, her voice laced with weariness. You dwell as a reminder of the unfulfilled. My thoughts betray me. I envy the child you will bear. Hagar's heart stirred at the admission, and she spoke with the grace bestowed upon her by God. The Lord has a plan for both of us, dear Sarai. Do you not see that all of this is within his hand? If indeed Ishmael is to bring forth many nations, could he not yet fulfill his promises in ways we cannot fathom? Sarai turned her face, the conflict within her swirling like a storm. How can trust endure when despair whispers lies in the wind? Will I remain in this burden forever? Am I to be cast aside in the shadows of this blessing? A deep silence fell between them, thick with the weight of unresolved strife, and yet, in that stillness, the presence of God enveloped them both. Hagar remembered the angelic visitation and the words of the Lord, and she felt emboldened. Sarai, you are not cast aside, you are chosen. Your lineage is precious in his eyes. Continue to seek him, for in seeking you may yet find the road you thought lost. As Sarai pondered these words, she turned her eyes to the horizon, where the sun crested the dunes, casting golden rays that danced upon the earth, a reminder of God's promises renewed each day. Weeks passed, and the stirrings of Hagar grew more pronounced. Sarai observed her with a mix of reverence and trepidation. Then, on a fateful day, as Hagar sat above the sands, the time came for her to deliver the child. Sweat beaded upon her brow, mingling with a resolve that was both fierce and nurturing. Sarai hurried to her side, her own turmoil that had once surged towards Hagar transforming into a mere whisper of the past. Breathe, Hagar, breathe, she uttered, as the air grew tense with the miracle of new life. And as the cries of Ishmael broke through the stillness, tears streamed down Sarai's face, each drop echoing the release of years of pain. The two women, once adversaries, now joined in the sacred bond of motherhood, gazed upon the small child, realizing they had each played a part in a divine story. In that moment, the night sky revealed a myriad of stars, a cosmic tapestry that echoed God's promises in finitudes, weaving the fates of many generations to come. The peace that surpassed all understanding enveloped them, for they were swept up into his plan. Yet what they did not fully grasp was how their lives would intertwine with the destiny of nations yet unborn. The testing and trials were far from over, and the path to fulfillment would traverse mountains and valleys, leading them both into moments that would shape the covenant of a people. The Lord's voice gently whispered again, "Look unto me, for I am the Alpha and Omega of your story." How profound the depths of his grace that was already in motion, ever guiding, ever anticipating their need for redemption and legacy. There was much more to behold, for God's sovereign orchestration was unfurling like the wings of an angel above, revealing intricate layers of his miracle in the lives of those he had chosen. Indeed, the world would gaze upon Ishmael, and in his line, shadows of truth and hope would unfurl beyond the valleys and towards an everlasting light yet to come. And it came to pass, in the days that followed the birth of Ishmael, that a new understanding blossomed in Sarai's heart. She awoke each morning, pondering the meaning of her life intertwined with Hagar and her son. As she looked upon the child, the echoes of heaven's promises reverberated within her soul, stirring a divine hope that transcended her previous doubts. Yet, the peace was fleeting, for the shadows of human emotion loomed over Sarai as she witnessed the bond between Hagar and her son. It was as if God's promise to Ishmael had cast a long shadow upon Sarai's own dreams of motherhood. She remembered the covenant spoken to her husband, Abram, that he would be the father of nations and kings, and now she felt the pressure of the waiting and longing hurtling down upon her like a storm. In those moments of deep reflection, the Lord spoke to Sarai in whispers, "Your time will come, my beloved." She embraced the words, but also questioned the unfolding of her destiny. As a mother born in the depths of longing and grief, she often turned her face toward the heavens, searching for solace amidst the trials of life. As the sun dipped low beyond the horizon, a spirit of heaviness gripped her. She sought out Hagar one evening as they sat around the flickering firelight, the glow illuminating their shared sorrows and joys. "Hagar, have you noticed how blessings can sometimes feel like burdens? What if my hope for a child is forever overshadowed by the blessing you bear?" Sarai spoke, her voice quivering. Hagar laid a gentle hand upon her arm. "Sarai, my heart is one with yours. We are both part of God's design, drawn together not merely by our circumstances but woven into a tapestry of his love and purpose. I believe our struggles are leading us closer to our God." Then a sense of urgency pressed upon Sarai, a longing deep within her that prompted her to dial into the very power of prayer. She resolved to seek God with unwavering faith. "If the Lord desires to change my story, I must yield myself entirely to him," Sarai whispered, and her heart flickered with a fearless flame of expectation. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing dusk, the constellation above bore witness to their journey. In the midst of their tent, as the winds howled and the stars shone bright, an angel of the Lord appeared to them with an air of divine authority. "Sarai," spoke the angel with a voice resonating like thunder yet tender as the dawn, "fear not, for the Lord has heard your cries. In the fullness of time, you will bear a son, and his name shall be Isaac. He shall be a vessel through whom my covenant shall be fulfilled." Overwhelmed, Sarai bowed low, her spirit aflame with awe and gratitude. "How can this be? I am but a woman of old age." She grasped the promise, yet her faith trembled beneath the magnitude of it. The angel's gaze held hers with heavenly assurance. "Is anything too hard for the Lord? This day he speaks life where there was once barrenness, and joy will spring forth in the land." As the angel departed, the night sky seemed to burst with a brilliance she had never known. Sarai turned to Hagar, whose eyes sparkled with understanding. "Do you not see, dear sister? The Lord's plans are laid before us like paths in the wilderness, and though we may not yet see the full picture, his sovereignty remains." In embracing one another in this moment of revelation, they both understood that their lives intertwined in ways they could not yet foresee. The unfolding of God's mysterious purpose had only just begun. And deep within the tapestry of creation, the lesson remained that faith is often found in the valleys of uncertainty. They were now poised at the threshold of profound change, pregnant not just with the promise of new life but with the weight of a covenant that would echo through the ages. What they could not fathom was how their journey would lead them both closer to the Messiah, who would arrive as the fulfillment of God's ultimate promise, a promise that had already been springing forth through the generations yet to come. The heavens opened. And in their hearts, they felt God's name El Shaddai echoing promise anew. And it came to pass that the days flowed into weeks, and the child Ishmael grew strong in his youth, while Sarai carried the weight of the promise yet unfulfilled. Each evening, as she gazed at the twinkling stars adorning the vast expanse, her heart entwined with mingled faith and doubt. Will the Lord truly bless my barren womb? She would whisper, seeking reassurance in the silence that surrounded her. One fateful night, under the ancient oaks that stood as witnesses to her trials, Sarai laid herself prostrate upon the earth, a posture of surrender, earnestly pouring out her soul to the Lord. O Mighty One, you who spoke into the void and created worlds, mark my heart with your peace. If it is within your will, let my faith behold the miracle of life. As dusk surrendered to night, the wind carried a stirring presence, and an angel of the Lord appeared, illuminating the darkness with a radiant glow. Sarai beheld the angel and trembled with reverence, for his countenance bore the light of heaven. Fear not, Sarai, he addressed her with tenderness. You are favored among women. The Lord has seen your anguish and heard your cry. This time next year, you shall embrace your son, Isaac, laughter shall spring forth from your heart, and your name shall be the carrier of his promise. Sarai's heart leaped within her chest, yet shadows of disbelief haunted the edges of her mind. Is it not beyond the scope of possibility? An old woman, well past the years of bearing? The angel's expression remained firm yet compassionate. With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Remember the covenant of the Lord spoken to Abram, that through you and your offspring, nations shall be blessed. And just as the dawn began to pierce the shrouded night, the celestial being departed, leaving Sarai enshrouded in the mantle of divine assurance. As she arose from the ground, a steadfast courage welled up within her. The wilderness she had traversed was not without reason, for each step, each tear had drawn her closer to the heart of God's unfolding plan. Sarai rushed to Hagar, her spirit aflame with the revelation that God had bestowed upon her. Hagar! She called out, gathering her in a fervent embrace. The Lord has spoken again. When the full circle of time has passed, I shall bear a son, and we shall rejoice together, for this child will be a part of our shared destiny. Hagar, moved by the sincerity in Sarai's eyes, responded with a heart full of faith. Sarai, may it be according to his word. Our lives weave together in the grand narrative of his grace and mercy. The weight of hope began to anchor their spirits anew amidst their trials, as the dawn brought forth the warmth of another day. But as the sun rose, so rose the challenges that lay before them. Sarai could sense the tempests of doubt gathering around her once more. The laughter of her promised child was an echo yet unheard, while the shadows of Ishmael's existence loomed large, a constant reminder of human strife and desire intermingled, yet within her, the promise flickered, a flame kindled by the Spirit of the Almighty. You shall not be forgotten, she recalled the angel's words, and fervently prayed, Lord, fulfill your word, for I desire to witness with my own eyes the fulfillment of your covenant. What lay ahead for Sarai and Hagar was a story, shaken but unbroken, woven through the hands of providence. Unbeknownst to them, their intertwined destinies would eventually ripple through generations, drawing them towards an astonishing climax: the arrival of grace, woven into the very fabric of a divine tapestry that would envelop not only their lives but all of creation. And as darkness continued to battle against the dawn, a question danced upon the winds: what profound revelation awaited them, hidden in the echoes of laughter that would soon break forth from the lips of a child? And it came to pass that the days grew heavier upon Sarai's spirit. Sarai carried the promise, yet every moment was besieged by doubt. As she attended to Ishmael and watched him frolic beneath the sun, an ache tugged at her heart, a yearning for the life that the Lord had promised her. One evening, after a day filled with labor, her tent shrouded in twilight, Sarai sat in stillness, quieting her mind for prayer. The weight of her unfulfilled hopes pressed upon her like a mantle of despair. The stars glittered overhead, yet they seemed to mock her waiting. O God, Sarai sighed deeply, how long must I endure this silence? Is the promise merely a dream? Then, in that heavy stillness, the wind began to stir, bringing with it the scent of myrrh and frankincense, a prelude to the visit that would change her heart forever. For the Lord had seen her tears, and in the softness of the air, an angel appeared once more, this time attending not only to Sarai, but to the sacred decree of heaven. Fear not, Sarai, for the Lord Almighty has not forgotten his covenant with you, the angel spoke with a voice that resonated like thunder and sweetness combined. You shall bear a son, and your laughter will echo through the generations, even unto nations yet unnumbered. As joy and disbelief wrestled within her, Sarai's spirit stirred. She felt the warmth of divine assurance wrapping around her like a shield as the angel continued, turn your eyes from what is seen to what is unseen. Within your womb will dwell a promise that will not only change your life but the very course of history. Stirred by the angel's words, Sarai recalled the covenant made with Abram, promises of multitude rising from their lineage. What shall I name this child? She found her voice, weaving the tapestry of hope with inquiry. Isaac shall be the name of your son, the angel declared, filling the still night with sacred gravity. For the joy of the Lord shall spring forth in him, he shall be the child of laughter, and with him, the covenant will flourish and multiply. Awash in newfound faith, Sarai rose, her heart ablaze with purpose. Yet lingering concerns entwined with her promise. And what of Ishmael? She pondered aloud. Will he not also bear a legacy? The angel's eyes softened. Ishmael shall not be cast aside, for he too is held in the hands of the Most High. He shall become a great nation, for the Lord hears his cries, even in the wilderness. As dawn began to break, the angel departed, leaving Sarai encased in a cocoon of celestial peace. The fruits of the Spirit surged within her as she ran to Hagar once more. Rejoice, sister. For the Lord has declared that I shall bear a son named Isaac, and together, we would share in the joy of our Master's promises. Hagar's eyes sparkled with understanding, her faith igniting like kindling to flame. Then let us prepare our hearts for the laughter of God's blessing, for indeed, we are woven into his majestic narrative. Yet, as Sarai embraced her sister, a shadow danced at the edge of her joy, a whisper of fear that the journey would not be without its trials. And as days turned into months, the question remained laced within their prayers: what is to come of this promise, and how shall the Lord unfold his divine plan? And in the very fabric of their anticipation, an understanding began to unfurl, for every divine promise draws nearer to fulfillment in the tapestry of time, and even the thorns of waiting yield blossoms of grace. What further mysteries lay hidden behind the laughter that would soon erupt, echoing through the heavens and firming the path of promises lost and found? And it came to pass that as the moon waned and the stars turned their gaze upon the earth, a time of anticipation settled heavily upon Sarai's heart. The promise of Isaac stirred within her like a gentle flame, yet the moments of waiting stretched and tested her soul. One morning, as the sun cast golden rays upon the land, Abram returned from a gathering of the men of their household. His face bore the signs of a burden, yet within his eyes shone the steadfast hope imparted by the Lord. Sarai, my beloved, he called, let us rejoice, for the time draws near. But how shall it be? Sarai asked, her voice a soft plea. For my body bears witness to the years that have slipped past, and still, I feel the weight of doubt upon me. Abram took her hands with tenderness and spoke, remember, Sarai, the Lord is not bound by time or our frailties. For it is written, is anything too hard for the Lord? Genesis 18 verse 14, he recounted the promises spoken to him beneath the stars, visions of nations and kings that would descend from their line. Her heart quickened at his words, igniting the flicker of faith. Yet the shadows of fear loomed large. What then shall we do, my Lord? For I sense that the path is not without its trials. As they spoke, a serenity enveloped them, and whisperings of the divine wrapped around their tent. And behold, as the winds began to stir once more, the air thickened with the scent of heavenly ambrosia. A vision appeared upon the threshold, 3 men standing clothed in radiant robes, their presence heavy with the glory of God. One of the men, whose countenance shone with light, turned his gaze toward Sarai and said, certainly, within a year's time, you shall embrace your son, Isaac. Sarai's breath caught in her throat, and behind her the sigh escaped as a gasp. Nay, she murmured, for I am too old, recalling the barren years that echoed in her mind like distant thunder. Is anything too hard for the Lord? The celestial messenger replied, his voice resonating like a deep well of wisdom. Your laughter shall not be turned to bitterness, but rather, it shall spring forth as a fountain of joy. At that moment, a warmth spread through her, casting aside the cold hands of doubt. With newfound resolve, Sarai grasped the promise tightly. The dawning realization illuminated her heart. All of creation awaited the fulfillment of this divine plan. As the men departed, leaving Abram in a deep contemplation, Sarai felt the power of the holy reverberations within her. She turned to her husband, her spirit alight with fervor. As the Lord has said, it shall be so. Let us prepare for the laughter of Isaac, for I see now that God's will is like the morning light breaking upon a weary dawn. Yet shadows danced furtively around their joy, for they knew the trials ahead would seek to shake their faith. They knelt in prayer, hands entwined, beseeching the Lord to fortify them for the journey, seeking strength and understanding to embrace the unfolding of his promises. And as they prayed, a thought occurred to Sarai: what of Ishmael, my firstborn? How shall he fit into this wondrous plan? A holy resolve gripped her heart. It became clear that the tapestry woven by the hands of the Almighty included not only their future joy but the encompassing promise of all his children. The whisperings of divine purpose lingered in the air, igniting a question seated in her heart: what legacy shall arise from the laughter of Isaac, and how shall the Lord weave these lives together? Thus, the winds whispered of unseen paths, and within the shadow of their promise, the joy of the Lord beckoned them forward into the glorious unknown. What revelation awaited them in the fulfillment of God's sovereign plan? Only the heavens knew, and the heart of the Father was set to unveil more than they dared to imagine. And it came to pass that the sun journeyed across the sky, casting long shadows over the encampment. Abram rose early, his soul engulfed in deep contemplation. He sat at the entrance of his tent, gazing toward the horizon, where the dawn heralded the promises of God. A heaviness lingered in his heart for Ishmael, his firstborn son, whom he loved dearly. As he looked heavenward, the Lord spoke to him, and his voice reverberated like the sound of many waters. Abram, be not troubled in your spirit, for my plans are not solely for you and Sarai but extend to all whom you hold dear. The weight of divine assurance washed over him as he pondered the meaning of these words. Then the Lord continued, as for Ishmael, I have heard your plea. Behold, I will bless him, and he shall be fruitful and multiply exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. Genesis 17 verse 20. Abram's heart swelled with gratitude, but still deep within, questions lingered. How shall these promises unfold? He pondered, wrestling with the tension of the future. Just then, the sound of footsteps approached, breaking through the murmurs of his thoughts. It was Sarai, her countenance glowing with a new radiance, a reflection of the promise and hope she now carried. My lord, I have been thinking, she said eagerly. We must prepare our hearts and our dwelling, for the child is near. We should gather the women of our household and celebrate the miracle that our God is bringing forth. At her words, Abram rose with renewed vigor. Yes, Sarai. Let it be so. He declared. Let us share in joy and thanksgiving, for the fulfillment of God's promise draws near. The laughter of Isaac shall bring forth a legacy of joy. They moved about their tent, gathering spices from the earth and cherished items of their past. Together they prepared a feast, reflecting their hope in the coming blessing. As the sun dipped low in the sky, families from neighboring encampments began to gather, drawn by the fragrance of the feast and the whispers of joy that echoed among the tents. With each person who arrived, the air thickened with excitement, as if the very earth held its breath in anticipation. They shared stories of heritage and faith, recounting the goodness of the Lord throughout generations, the covenant passed from Abraham to Isaac, and soon to unfold in their own household. But amid the laughter and merriment, a dark shadow stirred in the heart of Hagar, the bondwoman who had borne Ishmael. Her eyes, filled with deep concern and jealousy, watched from the edges of the gathering. With a heart torn between her son and the new promise within the tent of Abram, she brooded over her role in God's plan. Sarai, catching the glimmer of Hagar's pain, sensed the brewing tension that could unravel their joy. She approached with humility, intent to mend the rift. Hagar, she spoke softly, be not afraid. The Lord isn't finished, his blessings await each of us. Let us unite and rejoice together, for the God who sees us knows our hearts. Yet Hagar, full of uncertainty, retreated deeper into her thoughts, pondering how the Lord's favor might extend to her son as well, wrestling with the implications of love and jealousy in the looming shadow of Isaac's birth. As the evening deepened and the stars emerged, a hush fell over the gathering. Everyone was filled with a sense of divine anticipation. May this night mark the beginning of a new season, Abram lifted his voice, invoking the presence of the Almighty. For surely, as the Lord has spoken, the laughter of Isaac will ripple through the heavens, and new paths shall unfold. And just as the night sky embraced them, a wind stirred, carrying with it the promise of God's sovereign plan. In that moment, they understood the profound mystery of how their lives were intricately woven in a tapestry of divine glory. What revelation awaited them with the laughter of Isaac, and how would the unfolding story of God's promise reshape the legacy of both Isaac and Ishmael? The heavens seemed to listen intently, a divine mystery hanging in the air, waiting to be revealed. And it came to pass that night enveloped the encampment, as the joy of Abram and Sarai's gathering mingled with the cool evening air. Within the heart of the camp, laughter echoed, yet a profound silent anticipation sighed through the night, stretching into the souls of all present. As the stars shone brightly above, illuminating the dark expanse, Hagar remained on the fringes, her heart a battleground of longing and fear. She witnessed the light in Sarai's eyes and the embrace of the hope that danced upon the lips of those rejoicing. But where was her place in this divine performance? How could her son Ishmael, born from the shadows of doubt, be made a part of this promise? In the depths of her turmoil, something stirred within her spirit, a yearning for understanding and peace. Suddenly, amid the revelry, a luminous figure appeared before her. The air shimmered, and the very ground beneath her seemed to vibrate with divine energy. It was a messenger from the Lord, an angel of God with radiant countenance. Hagar, servant of Sarai, the angel called gently, "Fear not, for the Lord has heard your heart and knows your anguish. He sees you and Ishmael, wandering in the wilderness of uncertainty." Hagar, trembling yet compelled by divine authority, approached the heavenly being. "I know not what to do," she confessed. "Will the Lord look upon my son and me, even as the child of promise draws near?" The angel's voice resonated with compassion. "Arise, lift up your eyes, for the Lord will make him a great nation as well. As it is written, I will surely multiply your offspring so that they cannot be numbered for multitude." Genesis 16 verse 10. At this, Hagar fell to her knees, the weight of despair lifting from her spirit, replaced by a surge of hope. She gazed into the angel's eyes, a mirror of the unconditional love she longed to understand. "Behold, you shall name him Ishmael," the angel continued. "For the Lord has heard your affliction. He will be like a wild donkey, his hand against everyone, but he shall dwell in the presence of his brethren." Genesis 16 verse 12. With a heart renewed, she rose, feeling the transformative touch of heaven upon her. "Truly, the Lord sees me," she whispered in awe, recalling how she had encountered the God who hears, the God who meets her in her distress. Meanwhile, as the laughter within the tent swelled like the summer sea, Abram and Sarai rejoiced, unaware of the divine exchange unfolding on the edges of their joy. As they broke bread, they spoke of the future, unaware that the angelic message would carve a path of destiny not only for Isaac but also for Ishmael. In their hearts, they continued to nurture the hope that had been so long awaited, thankful for the weaving of God's story that included both sons. Yet as the night wore on, a deeper understanding began to settle over the gathering. How might this promise unify their families and forge a bond between two nations destined for great deeds? Would they embrace both parts of God's covenant, learning to accept the diverse paths he had laid before them? As the fire's glow softly illuminated their faces, a collective realization began to dawn. They stood on the precipice of divine revelation, sensing the interplay of God's design that would challenge their understanding and reshape their legacy. What further mysteries did God hold in his sovereign design, and how would the fates of Isaac and Ishmael intertwine amidst the bright tapestry of divine promise? The night held its breath, as the stars bore witness to promises yet to unfold, casting their light upon the hearts of those who dared to believe. And it came to pass that in the fullness of time, the long-awaited promise was realized. The night was alive with the breath of God's creation, as Sarai, soon to be named Sarah, felt the surging currents of life pulsing within her. On a day marked by divine purpose, she brought forth a son, the son of laughter, whom they called Isaac. The air around them quaked with joy as they welcomed the promise fulfilled. Sarai held Isaac close, her heart brimming with awe and gratitude. "Truly, the Lord has brought me laughter," she proclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. "All who hear of this shall laugh with me." And with that holy acknowledgement, a weight lifted from her spirit, a release not just of years in waiting but of the very burdens that had shackled her heart. She marveled at God's faithfulness, so perfectly woven through the strands of her life, yet amidst the elation, shadows still lingered in the heart of the encampment. Hagar watched from a distance, her own heart swelling with mixed emotions as thoughts of her son Ishmael clouded her joy. Life had so orchestrated their destinies that now, as the child of promise thrived, she felt the tension pull at her very soul. Could there still be a place for Ishmael in this divine narrative? The Lord, knowing the thoughts of her heart, sent forth a messenger, once more an angel, radiant and filled with grace. "Fear not, Hagar," the angel intoned, "for the Lord hears your cries, and he sees you and your son in this unfolding story." Encouraged by this divine assurance, Hagar approached with reverence, her knees trembling yet emboldened. "Will you surely bless Ishmael?" she inquired, vulnerability laid bare before the angel. "Indeed," the angel affirmed. "For I will make him a great nation, and he shall know my favor as well. Take heart, for your son is precious in the sight of the Lord." A wave of peace washed over Hagar, arms outstretched to embrace the depth of the promise spoken over her son, a promise that would echo through countless generations. That in those sacred moments, the hearts of both women began to draw nearer, united by the love of God and the grace that had interwoven their destinies. As Isaac grew, Hagar and Sarai learned to intertwine their lives in a manner that reflected God's unfathomable wisdom. The laughter of Isaac grew soft yet resounding, weaving threads of joy into the very fabric of their household. Each echo of glee burgeoned with promises set forth, urging them toward unity rather than division. Then the time came when the blend of Abraham's family was tested. The laughter morphed into moments of contention. Ishmael, a young prince in his own right, began to assert his place among the household, embodying the wild spirit his mother had been told he would possess. And as he played alongside Isaac, laughter occasionally turned to shadows of jealousy in Sarah's heart, for their hearts swayed in the balance of human emotion and divine providence, and it was not long before strife arose. Sarah, burdened by the tension, approached Abraham. "Cast out this bondwoman and her son," she cried, her voice laden with desperation and the need for peace. "For Ishmael shall not share in the inheritance of my son Isaac." Abraham was grieved by Sarah's words, yet the Lord spoke to his heart in a manner both sovereign and tender. "Listen to your wife," he instructed, "for Isaac is the child of promise, and my covenant shall prosper through him. But of Ishmael, I shall also take care, I will make him a nation as well." Abraham obeyed, and though it pained him deeply, he prepared a provision of water and bread for Hagar and Ishmael. He placed them under the care of the Almighty, entrusting to God the future of his firstborn. Hagar wandered into the wilderness, the weight of uncertainty echoing in her heart, as tears of anguish sprung forth for her son, but God had not forgotten Ishmael. Overwhelmed and weary, Hagar found herself beneath a tree, despair threatening to engulf her. "Let me not see the death of the boy," she sorrowed, unable to bear the thought of losing her son. Yet the voice of God pierced through her cloud of grief, beckoning her with divine clarity. "What troubles you, Hagar? Arise, lift your eyes, and behold the well of living water I have provided for you." There amid the dry land, the well sprang forth, a refreshing testament to God's unwavering provision. Hagar filled her vessel, her heart surged with renewed hope. Ishmael, buoyed by God's promise, would indeed become a great nation, as foretold, each footstep of his legacy divinely planned, and in the fullness of time, as generations flowed from both God's chosen vessels, the world witnessed the dawn of nations birthed from both Isaac and Ishmael. As each child laughed, the whispers of their stories intertwined, echoing the vast melodic harmony of divine promise. The tapestry of faith grew richer and more intricate, showing forth the deep truths of God's unwavering love and his sovereign design. What was meant for division became a signal of hope for all of humanity. As the sun set on the myriad of stories intertwined through time, God's promise was fulfilled in ways both seen and unseen. Thus, the blessings of Isaac and Ishmael would resonate not only through their descendants but into the very essence of faith itself, weaving the narrative of redemption through the ages. In the heart of every child of Abraham, be they from Sarah's line or Hagar's, the promise remained alive, bound by the love of the Father and reflective of his abundant grace. So let us stand as witnesses, affirming in our own lives the power of divine promise. For in every trial faced, every moment of hope embraced, we too are invited to partake in his story. Do not hesitate, beloved, share this testimony and sow it among those who wander in darkness. Tap that subscribe button now to remain tethered to the truth that transforms. Leave a like. Your small act can carry this seed of faith further and bless many. Comment below how this journey of faith has spoken to your heart and consider sharing this impactful truth with 5 friends who long for hope. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth and resonate echoes of his love. Do not wait even one more second to extend God's promise to those seeking light. In the arms of his unfailing love, let us journey forward together into the marvelous unknown.